The sightings at the Chernobyl power plant. After the encounters witnessed in the town of Point Pleasant back in 1966 to 1967, the Mothman would not return for another couple of decades. In that time, reported sightings of the creature were concentrated around the Soviet Union but notably centered around the town of Pripyat and at the Chernobyl power plant. There were an overwhelming number of reports in the region, and even workers at the power plants claimed to be bothered by the appearance of the creature. According to the residents of the town of Pripyat, there were numerous reports and claims of a strange winged creature often seen flying over the town late at night on a variety of different occasions. In the case of the workers at the Chernobyl power plants, there appeared to be much more alarming reports. In the month shortly following the Chernobyl incident on the 26th of April back in 1986, the workers at the Chernobyl power plant noticed the same creature reported throughout the town of Pripyat hovering over the plant. Sometimes, it even rested on the larger towers and areas of construction. What grew more perplexing for the workers were the reported incidents in which people experienced harrowing nightmares of the creature that would manifest into threatening phone calls from the creature, calling them throughout the night. Many residents of Pripyat and workers at the Chernobyl power plant described the creature as resembling the shape of a man with wings and piercing, glowing red eyes. This creature would later be referred to as the Black Bird of Chernobyl and, similar to the cases in Point Pleasant, would cease to exist in the region shortly after the Chernobyl incident. The Chernobyl incident is known worldwide as one of the largest tragedies and potentially the most environmentally damaging of its time. Although it appeared that the governments of the world were ready and prepared when it occurred, the event still saw more than 50,000 square miles of land contaminated with radioactive fallout, making a large part of it completely unusable for the foreseeable future. The site of the town of Pripyat and Chernobyl will not be habitable for another 20,000 years. It could very well be that the Mothman was warning us of an impending doom that could have left a much larger area completely uninhabitable for a much longer time. Point Lookout Lighthouse. The Point Lookout Lighthouse in the town of Scotland, located in the state of Maryland, appears to have had a long history with the supernatural. In fact, many paranormal researchers claim that the lighthouse is one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Many have reported that going to the lighthouse will turn even the most unshakable skeptics into a terrified believer. Many have often reported seeing male and female apparitions appear before them, only to vanish shortly before a picture could be taken, or others could see it. Doors will often open and close, slamming them shut, and people have also reported hearing noises of heavy footsteps running up and down the lighthouse, along with shouting, screaming, whispering, and even snoring. Many have speculated that this could be due to the fact that many years ago, the spot was once used as a hospital and prison camp for Confederate soldiers during the time of the Civil War. Although the lighthouse went out of operation back in 1985, it still holds an incredible piece of history that can be heard in the hallways of the lookout. Rigel the dog who saved lives. Newfoundland dogs are known around the world for their ability to tolerate the coldest temperatures and for working tirelessly to protect their owners from any possible dangers. This appeared to be the case when discussing the events of Rigel, the dog who helped save numerous lives during the sinking of the RMS Titanic. Rigel was the dog owned by the captain of the Titanic, who was believed to have perished early on in the sinking of the ship. However, his dog continued on with his duties. After the survivors were aboard lifeboats and the ship had sunk quite deep, Rigel the dog jumped off the starboard bow and landed in the frigid, icy waters. Many of those in lifeboats remembered seeing Rigel swimming around, almost as if completely unaffected by the temperature, doggy paddling his way onto floating debris or beside lifeboats, where he could get a moment's rest. After a long wait for search and rescue, it appeared that lifeboat number 4 was far away from the search efforts of the crews near the area. As the Carpathia came into the region, the crew of which would come to pick up the majority of the survivors, it appeared that lifeboat 4 had begun to drift under the bows of the ship and was at risk of being run down. The survivors on the lifeboat were already far too weak to make their voices heard on board. The Carpathia was commanded by a man named Jonas Briggs, who heard the barking of the dog and noticed the lifeboat drifting closer and closer to the bow. He signaled for the boat to turn, and the survivors were quickly rescued. Rigel would later be adopted by Jonas Briggs and lived out the rest of his days in a home in rural Scotland to a ripe old age. the bloop in the Julia Sound. Back in 1997, a sound was recorded emanating from deep within the ocean in vast, unexplored regions. It was so loud that it was considered one of the loudest sounds ever recorded on Earth at the time. It was given the nickname the bloop because it mimicked the sound patterns of marine animals in some ways. The strange thing about this noise was that for it to have been from a sea creature, it would have had to emanate from a large marine animal larger than the size of most naturally formed islands. Because of this impossible size, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration considered the noise to be caused by an ice quake, a large shattering sound caused when massive pieces of underwater ice crack. However, many experts reject this explanation as the noise was too loud for standard ice quake recordings. This sound remains a mystery that requires more evidence for explanation. In 1999, a similar sound was recorded, nicknamed the Julia Sound. This recording mimicked the original behaviors of the bloop recording and was analyzed in much greater detail, determining the audio closer to a cooing sound or a continuous whining noise. This renewed interest in the mystery and prompted speculation that there might be a massive underwater creature deep beneath the ocean's surface. Interestingly, new information regarding the matter has recently surfaced due to H.P. Lovecraft enthusiasts and a collection of conspiracy theory writings. According to the Lovecraftian novels, a large ancient elder god known as Cthulhu rests at the bottom of the ocean, awakening to bring doom to humanity. In Lovecraft's writings, he provided a location for the monster, somewhere around a latitude of 50 degrees south and a longitude of 100 degrees west. Interestingly, the source of the bloop sound had been traced to a 50 degrees south latitude and 102 degrees west, closely matching Lovecraft's tale. Ancient Aztec pyramids. Although many might be unaware of the discoveries, pyramids are not only found in Egypt. In fact, archaeologists and researchers have found pyramids all around the world, built by various ancient civilizations. The ancient Aztec civilization also boasts a variety of these pyramid-like structures that are more than 2,000 years old. Unfortunately, the purpose of these pyramids remains shrouded in mystery. One of these pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun, located in Teotihuacan, Mexico, stands as one of the largest constructions ever created in the Americas. It is believed to have taken more than 100 years to build and contains over 1.1 million adobe mud bricks. The Pyramid of the Sun is almost identical in size to the Great Pyramid of Giza, though it stands much shorter due to a lower angle of height. The pyramids are believed to have been the center of religious and sacrificial rituals in the Aztec civilization. Researchers suggest that the pyramids held a deep religious and spiritual significance, acting as the heart of the city's design. The pyramids, especially the Pyramid of the Sun, are believed to be the site of numerous rituals conducted by the Aztecs to ensure the safety of humanity, guaranteeing a new year. In Aztec mythology, it is believed that their gods would descend from the sky and land on the pyramids, providing gifts, using the pyramids for maintaining contact, and more. This has led to theories suggesting that the pyramids may have been ancient landing sites for extraterrestrial visitors, given the descriptions of God's interactions with the structures. Today, there is no consensus on the exact purpose of these pyramids, but they are believed to be closely tied to the Aztec civilization's religious and spiritual practices and their connection to celestial bodies. The Adaro Merperson. One of the darker tales involving mythical sea creatures is that of the Adaro Merperson. Unlike traditional mermaid legends, Adaro creatures are described as evil spirits that roam the Pacific Ocean, residing at deep depths in the darkest regions of the ocean. They share some physical characteristics with mermaids, such as the humanoid appearance with large gills behind their ears, but they have a long tail fin instead of feet and a shark-like dorsal fin that can grow into a large horn. They also have a massive shark spear growing from the top of their heads, similar to a swordfish or a sawfish. According to legend, Adaro creatures are born when an evil person falls into the ocean and passes away. This evil lingers in the ocean, forming the body of an Adaro, which then continues to grow in numbers. They are believed to reside close to the Solomon Islands and are considered far more sinister than traditional mermaid legends. Encounters with the Adaro are best avoided. The Loch Ness Monster. Possibly one of the biggest ocean mysteries is the search for the Loch Ness Monster. Sightings of the creature have been associated with the long-extinct plesiosaur, a dinosaur. In recent years, scientists discovered that another supposedly extinct species, the vampire squid, is still alive in deep, unexplored ocean depths. The only known natural predator to the vampire squid is the plesiosaur. This discovery has led some to believe that the Loch Ness Monster could be a surviving species of plesiosaur inhabiting deep, unexplored ocean areas. In fact, in the early 1900s, Japanese fishermen caught a large creature that closely resembled a living plesiosaur washed up near the beaches. This discovery led experts to consider the possibility of a surviving dinosaur species. However, until further exploration can be conducted in deeper ocean areas, such as the Marianas Trench, the Loch Ness Monster will remain one of the ocean's many mysteries. The massive circular stone structure under the Sea of Galilee. Referred to as the Mound in the Sea, there is a strange underwater anomaly directly beneath the Sea of Galilee, located at its shallowest section. The mound was discovered in 2003 when researchers were searching for ancient artifacts underwater. After further analysis, researchers believe that the area is artificial, formed by ancient people. The mound, located in 30 feet of water, may have been above water and used as a construction site in ancient times. The mound is constructed using basalt rocks stacked into a cone shape, and it is believed to be twice the size of Stonehenge. Researchers have speculated about its purpose, suggesting it might have been a large ramp or a ceremonial structure. Some believe it could have been slowly eroded by the surrounding water. Unfortunately, no further research into the area has continued, and the structure's true purpose remains a mystery. An 8.5-mile pyramid discovered underwater. In 2016, a strange and unexplainable deep-sea anomaly was discovered. Spotted using state-of-the-art satellite information, it appears to be a massive pyramid construction underwater, far larger than the pyramids of Giza. The structure is estimated to be somewhere between 3.5 to 11 miles across and rests in the Pacific Ocean, west of Mexico. You can even view the massive structure using Google Earth satellite images. The discovery was made by Marcelo Igazustin, a researcher from Argentina. He claimed the structure could be evidence of an ancient civilization predating known human history. His theories led to various conspiracy theories, suggesting it could be a secret alien base inhabiting the ocean floor. Many have pointed to the existence of unidentified submerged objects or UFOs emerging from underwater, adding to the intrigue. The mystery surrounding this underwater pyramid continues to capture imaginations. The radiocarbon dating of the shroud. The Shroud of Turin has long been a subject of debate, including its authenticity in the age of the cloth. The radiocarbon dating of the artifact was allowed under special permission, and a tiny sample of the shroud was taken for testing. However, the sample taken was from the same damaged section that had been burned in a fire, throwing off the carbon dating results. It wasn't until later, in 2013, that testing using vibrational spectroscopy indicated the cloth was most likely produced between 300 BC and 400 AD. Aligning with the time of the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. This finding provided evidence supporting the authenticity of the shroud's age. No paints or substances. In 1390, an anonymous artist claimed to have created the shroud, stating it was nothing more than a forgery, created with paints and substances. This claim led to skepticism about the shroud's authenticity for many years. However, in the early 1970s, a Turing Commission conducted tests on the shroud to determine whether paints and substances were used in its creation. Conventional and electron microscopic examinations found an absence of paints and substances on the shroud. Researchers were puzzled by this, as they expected to find evidence of pigments. Further testing of the shroud samples revealed the presence of an organic material that contained a rich and pure iron oxide. This iron oxide mimicked the properties of blood and helped debunk the claim that the image was created using paints or substances. This discovery supported the authenticity of the shroud. But fortunately, despite these testings, they concluded that the existence of the organic material was not the cause of the formation of the image and was rather a layer found on top of the image. Further testings into the iron oxide residue allowed for the blood found on the cloth to be tested and showed the same consistencies as that of beef-type blood. Though no further information could be found conclusively, no paints or physical substances of any kind were found to make up the image of the man on the shroud. The Baltic Sea anomaly. During the summer of 2011, An independent Swedish-based organization known as the Ocean X Team began its search for sunken treasures and historical artifacts that could be recovered from old rumored shipwrecks in the region of the Baltic Sea. Interestingly enough, as they continued their investigation using high-end sonar imagery equipment, they soon discovered a strange image that appeared to look strikingly similar to a sunken unidentified flying object referred to as the Baltic Sea anomaly. Below the waters appears to be a strange formation that contains sharp edges, a large overall body, and an interesting shape that looks similar to that of a large, completely circular flying saucer. Unfortunately, no efforts could be made to go deeper into the water and uncover the true nature of the object, as the structure appears to be located too deep for an independent research team to explore. Because of this, no new information regarding the structure can be uncovered, and the strange Baltic Sea anomaly is still hidden deep beneath the waters. Number 10. The Australian Bunyip. Described as one of the strangest creatures in Aboriginal myth, the Bunyip of Australia seems to be a monster that leans more towards the supernatural than the natural. While many Aboriginal drawings depict a panther-like creature as the Bunyip, the truth surrounding the Bunyip is that the creature has no true physical form and has the ability to shapeshift into a creature of any kind. This has led many Aboriginal people to tell stories of the Bunyip taking strange forms, such as that of a large flying starfish, a creature with large tusks in the face of a dog, a large bear-like creature, and even that of a large man. Its normal form is believed to be nothing more than a strange ball of light, leading many to believe that perhaps the creature is more of a manifested spirit, with some suggesting it has the ability to take physical forms of any kind. Additionally, the spirit is believed to live in the waters of Australia, usually having surfaced or exited from a body of water, such as a river, lake, or shoreline. Though most of the information surrounding the Bunyip is gathered from stories and legends of the Aboriginal people, there have also been a number of reports from old British trade ships during the early days of inhabiting the Australian area, leading to a number of written reports surrounding the dangers of the creature and encounters from merchants and officers. Number 9. The East-West Highway. The longest highway ever constructed in the pool also appears to be the longest haunted area of the country, as both tourists and locals claim that a number of ghostly apparitions can be seen running across the highway throughout the night, as well as the audible manifestation of a woman screaming from the nearby jungles. Some believe that the phenomenon is similar to that of the haunted Runabin village jungle, whereas others claim that the creatures are not ghostly apparitions but rather apparitions of darker entities attempting to cause those driving on the highway to crash and lose their lives. Today, reports seem to come in daily surrounding mysterious apparitions, even claimed by tourists who are aware of the urban legends, terrified that they hit a local only to find nothing on the road whatsoever. Number 8. The Legends of Giants. There have been increasing rumors in recent years surrounding the creation of the giant pyramids of Giza and the builders being giants. Back in 820 AD, the neighboring ruler to Egypt at the time, Sultan el-Rashid al-Mahmud, made several attempts to open the Great Pyramid and so contacted a number of experts to better understand the site. He was told that the structure had been built by giants, referred to as the Jedi, which roughly translates to superhuman beings. Within these pyramids, they had stored a great treasure beyond the knowledge of man. Due to these writings and the sheer magnitude of the pyramid, many believe it is possible that an ancient race of giants constructed the massive structures. Number 7. Evidence of Hercules. Also known by the name of Thonis, as given by the ancient Egyptian civilization, the lost city of Heracleion was described as a trade hub located near the canopic mouth of the Nile according to ancient Egyptian documents. The city of Heracleion had often been at the center of many epic Greek mythologies, including works by Herodotus, Strabo, and Diodorus, who tied the ancient city to other trade hubs such as the fallen city of Troy and the stories of Hercules. Interestingly enough, this all changed in 1933 when an RAF commander flying over Abu Qurba remarked about the ruins of a city under the waters. It would take about 6 decades before the French underwater archaeologist Frank Godiot would find the ruins and make the connection between the discovered ruins and the mythical city of Heracleion, proving the legitimacy of not only the city's existence but also the old mythologies and records of Greece. This has led many to believe that perhaps this trade hub was the center of many of the travels of Hercules in the area where many of his battles with terrifying creatures, such as the Hydra, took place, proving the existence of monsters native to the region. Number 6. Staffordshire Horn. One of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever made surrounding the rich British culture would occur completely by accident and become hailed as one of the largest ever finds of artifacts in the modern day. Back on the 5th of July of 2009, two men, 68-year-old farmer Fred Johnson and his 57-year-old friend Terry Herbert, discovered a number of strange artifacts when traveling through Fred Johnson's land. At first, they believed the artifacts to be a collection of old metals, only to later discover that they had come across an ancient site filled with a large haul of gold and silver artifacts. This quickly led to the two men gathering the artifacts and taking them to a museum to find out that the discovery, later referred to as the Staffordshire Hoard, was worth more than 3.3 million British pounds. This led to the men becoming wealthy overnight as they sold their find to the museum that helped appraise its value, of which led to one of the greatest discoveries of artifacts made and stored in the area by the Anglo-Saxons. Additionally, the news story would go on to be one of the most popular stories in the region, leading to even more interest surrounding these strange artifacts, where they came from, and the purpose of why they had all been broken up into smaller pieces before being stored. This would not be the last of the two friends, however, as shortly after this find and sale, they would go back to the property and search for even more artifacts to be estimated for value and appraised. This would lead to the two men finding even more artifacts located near where the original artifacts had been unearthed. Unfortunately, Terry Herbert and Fred Johnson claimed that the discovery created a rift in their friendship as they battled over how the money should be split, with Johnson claiming he deserved all of the earnings as the artifacts were discovered on his property despite Herbert having been the one to unearth the artifacts. Number 5. The Soul Snatchers. One of the most well-known paranormal urban legends coming from Bangladesh is the culture's reference to entities referred to as soul snatchers. Soul snatchers are believed to be the departed souls of people who had sold their souls to the devil during their life in exchange for their every want and desire. After living their best life, these people would pass away and be forced to spend the rest of eternity in servitude to the devil, gathering the souls of the innocently departed. This urban legend led to the creation of new rituals and traditions among the Bangladeshi people, centered around the idea that when a family member or friend dies, you must battle these soul snatchers who will attempt to enter the coffin of the recently departed to retrieve their soul. This belief has led many in the country to invite a large number of people to attend funerals in the hopes that if there is an attack, there are people ready to help defend against the soul snatchers, as well as the fact that the pallbearers will have backup pallbearers to help carry the coffin. It is believed that when soul snatchers are attempting to gather the soul of the recently departed, the coffin will become heavier and the pallbearers can faint under the stress. Though not everyone believes and follows this urban legend across the country, belief in this paranormal occurrence has been on the rise in recent years, with more and more people claiming evidence of soul snatchers and even attempting to hire complete strangers to help with the fight against the soul snatchers. Number 4. The Skinwalker Sightings. The most popular sightings experienced at Skinwalker Ranch are those of the numerous reported encounters with skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are believed to be individuals who underwent a cursed ritual and gain the ability to shapeshift into a wolf-like creature whenever they choose. This term comes from old Navajo legends that claim that when a tribal member committed a terrible social taboo, something otherwise not accepted by the tribe as a whole, it would cause the tribe to come together to perform a ritual that would curse the person into becoming part animal and curse them to live a life of solitude, being forced to change from their human form into a large animalistic form whenever their insatiable desires take control. Interestingly enough, many believe that skinwalkers are at the center of the strange reports surrounding Skinwalker Ranch, as many of the creatures described in the numerous encounters held by people are large beasts that have been reported as walking on their hind legs and possessing many of the powers that a skinwalker is believed to have. One such power is the ability to mimic any animal noise, as well as the ability to sound like any person that it hears speaking. This strange ability has been heard by numerous witnesses who claim to have seen a large moving beast in the area, as well as hearing a number of large animal calls shortly after, along with their own voice being echoed back to them after they call out in fear. Number 3. The winged hole. Believed to inhabit the denser regions of the jungles of Java, there appears to be a large winged creature that can be found across most of Indonesia. The creature is known as the winged hole and is thought by many to be a possible undiscovered large bat species native only to that region. The first reported encounter with the creature came from a man known as Dr. Ernest Bartels back in 1925. The doctor claimed that he was on the slope of the Salak Mountain studying the many diverse forms of life when he witnessed a massive bat-like creature fly overhead. The creature was described by the doctor as being 28 feet in length from the tips of the wingspan and as having the face of a chimp. Additional reports of the creature have been made in modern times, with some reporting that the monster has attacked camps, villages, and hikers on expeditions. Scientists have even theorized that the existence of the creature could be likely that of an undiscovered species, given the fact that there seemed to be a rather large bat subspecies that lived nearby and populates the denser regions of the mountains and jungles. Today, there has yet to be an explanation for the existence of the creature, but further expeditions of the area have not been made, and no concrete evidence has been gathered surrounding the creature. Number 2. St. Louis Ghost Train. Back in the early 1920s, many residents living within a small village claimed to have seen a mysterious ghost train. This train would travel down an area where railroad tracks no longer existed. Referred to as the St. Louis Ghost Train, this mysterious legend tells a strange modern-day tale of a headless conductor who underwent a tragedy, leading to one of the strangest hauntings ever recorded. According to the legend, back in the early 1920s, there had been a railroad transport worker situated atop the old trains, whose sole purpose was to assist the train with its braking mechanisms. This rail transport worker had supposedly gotten drunk on one of his routes and failed to check the brakes. This eventually led to him falling off the train and losing his head, along with a number of other misfortunes caused by an incorrectly braked train. Shortly after the incident, many began to claim that they would witness lights flying down the train tracks, similar to train lights but completely silent and moving much faster than anything capable at the time. Many believed that these lights could either be the soul of the headless brakeman or of an entire ghost train itself. This has led to the name of the St. Louis Ghost Train, as the apparition appeared on the tracks located south of Prince Albert and north of St. Louis. Recently, the urban legend has begun to die down after 2 high school grade students from northern Saskatchewan claimed to have solved the urban legend dating back to 1930. They duplicated the phenomenon by using diffraction of distant vehicle lights to create the ghost train lights in the area. This led to the 2 students winning a gold science fair for the investigation and their explanation, despite the fact that the reported phenomenon predated the use of modern cars and car lights. To this day, outside of the widely accepted conclusion, there are still reports of the ghost train and no valid explanation for the cause. Number 1. The Mariana Trench is one of the most mysterious places on the planet, with an average depth of about 12,100 feet. The deepest part of the ocean is called the Challenger Deep and is located beneath the western Pacific Ocean in the southern end of the Mariana Trench. Challenger Deep is approximately 36,200 feet deep. With this knowledge, we should keep an open mind about what could be lying at the bottom of the sea. A few years back, a mysterious noise was recorded coming from the Mariana Trench. However, this noise was later identified as a new type of baleen whale call. What's odd is that no one had heard this type of call before, and people are questioning why the whale was making it. Some have put forward the theory that this call was a distress call and that the whale may have encountered something down there. One theory that's been put forward is that an ancient plesiosaur could be down there. The Lady in the White Ghost. Described by locals as the most popular and frequently cited ghost from across the country, is that of the Lady in White. According to the legend surrounding the Lady in White, she appears as a female ghost dressed completely in a white robe with long black hair that travels down the length of her back. Though there have been a number of sightings of the Lady in White ghost across the Philippines, there is one that stands out as the most commonly told story surrounding the legend of the ghost and its behaviors. According to the urban legend, the spirit of the Lady in White belonged to a long-haired woman who was wearing a white dress on her way to a wedding. Suddenly, as she was driving along Billet Drive, her car began shaking, and she crashed at a high speed, causing her to perish instantly. This has caused her spirit to be trapped in this area in a perpetual state of attempting to get to her wedding in time. This has left many taxi drivers scared, as it has been told among the drivers not to pick up anyone alongside but let drive at night, as it is usually the lady in white who will enter the back seat of the taxi and take on a more disgusting form. A form that has left many taxi drivers running from the car and abandoning their taxis. Though this is only one instance and tale of the elusive lady in white, the truth surrounding the legend appears to be all the more frightening. It appears that not only are there several cases of these strange sightings all across the country with many different origin stories of women with tragic tales, but that many different spirits of the same form appear all across the world in many different countries completely isolated from the myth all across time. This has led many to believe that a lady in white ghost can appear from almost anyone and will usually only take form when a woman undergoes a tragic event while remaining pure of heart. Unidentified flying objects and orbs. Outside of the numerous claims of skinwalkers throughout the region of Skinwalker Ranch, there appears to be a number of incredible sightings of unidentified flying objects and bright floating orbs that have left many to refer to the ranch as the strangest place on Earth. The first ever reported sighting of an unidentified flying object was reported by the family that lived on the ranch, who had originally believed the craft to be some form of top-secret military project of immense size. According to the family, the unidentified flying object that they observed was regarded as being as large as several football fields in size and was covered in a number of strange blinking lights. The morning after the sighting, the entire ground of the ranch where the unidentified flying object was claimed to have rested was left with a massive depression in the area that gave a perfect imprint of the ship on the soil beneath it. Other pieces of evidence surrounding extraterrestrial intervention included hearing voices speaking in a strange language seemingly coming out of thin air, an alien creature standing at more than 7 feet tall beside a large floating glowing orb, as well as cows completely disappearing out of thin air and reappearing the next day as a mutilated mess in the field. One of the most frightening claims was that during the night, a strange bouncing ball of light had come to the house and was bouncing around the property. This would lead their 3 dogs to break free and begin chasing the ball away from the house, only for them to never return again after seemingly vanishing from thin air along with the bouncing ball of light. Unfortunately for the owners, their reports would go largely ignored by respectable researchers, leaving their property becoming a hotspot sighting area for UFO enthusiasts to journey onto the ranch at all hours of the day and harass the owners by invading their personal space and setting up camping equipment in the hopes of coming across extraterrestrial contact. The man-sized spider. The Japify, more commonly known as the Congolese giant spider, is that of a large undiscovered species of spider that is reportedly the size of a man and has survived from larger arachnid species found in ancient prehistoric times well into the modern day. Though large spiders have been reported all across the continent of Africa, it appears that within the Congo, there are native tribes known as the Bakar that refer to the spider as the Jabafofi and have reported that the creatures have a leg span of roughly 4 feet long. These urban legends were uncovered after a number of African reports began telling of a massive spider infesting different African countries at different times of the year. The reported sightings of such a creature occurred back in the 1890s when a missionary from England ventured into the country of Uganda and discovered a massive web located near Lake Nyasa. He then writes that as they were looking at the web and getting closer to understand what it was, given its massive size, stretching between 2 larger standing trees, several of his people became trapped as they began to move in the webs, sticking to the strings. They claimed spiders with legs longer than 4 feet began to come out and bite into the trapped men, causing the others to run and leave them in fear. Later expeditions in 1938 would lead researchers to consult with local and native tribes in the Congo that told of the Jabarfofo spider, which was believed to have a matching leg span of 4 feet in length and had thousands of eggs described as being the size of peanuts. The spider would nest nearby tribal villages in efforts to trap birds, large animals, and even humans. The ostrich, which is closely related to the velociraptors, exhibits similar physical structures and group-like intelligences. This could very well be supporting evidence of a yet-to-be-uncovered descendant of the raptor living in the wooded areas of the state of Georgia. Scientists have said that we currently know more about what's going on the surface of the moon than what is happening within our very own oceans. These underwater worlds are mostly unexplored, and many of them are hiding mysteries that are waiting to be discovered. Over the years, there has been talk of giant sea creatures that could be living in the depths. One of these has become known as the USS Stein Sea Monster. This large ship was named after Tony Stein. No one knows where the event took place, but it's said that it happened somewhere in deep water. The crew started to notice that suddenly the ship started to experience technical problems, which ultimately led to the failure of its sonar. When the ship arrived home, it was dry docked and immediately examined. It was said that whatever had caused the damage was very big, perhaps even an unknown giant squid species. The creature had managed to damage the rubber coating of the sonar dome. Engineers had later discovered that over 10% of the surface coating was damaged, and most of the cuts were very similar to those found on the suction cups of squids. However, the engineers said that this wasn't a normal-sized creature, saying that the cuts were much larger than any known squid species. This has fueled speculation that the creature in question was over 100 feet in length. Although this sounds impossible, we have discovered giant squids that were over 40 feet in length, and some think that larger specimens could also be lurking in the depths. The hitchhiker on the curve. A common urban legend told by those warning tourists from picking up hitchhikers is that of the girl on the curve. According to the legend, some men claim that when driving out in the countryside, they had encountered a beautiful woman standing at the side of the road, waving for the driver to stop. When the driver stops, the woman begins to ask them for a ride, a request that most men willingly fulfill. After a short while of driving, the woman will then begin to speak aloud and say, "Watch out ahead. There's a dangerous bend in the road." After passing the bend, the woman will then say, "I'm glad we made it this time. That was where I died." After hearing these words, when the man turns to face the woman, he will see that her body is changed into that of a mangled mess, completely covered in blood and mud in the back seat of the car. Shortly after, the body will blink out of existence, leaving the driver terrified and traumatized. New York 1898 Mysterious Lights. Back in 1898, before the invention of heavier-than-air styled aircraft, the only aircraft around the world known at the time was that of lighter-than-air style aircraft, such as hot air balloons and the invention of Zeppelin-style craft. Despite this technological limit, it appears that over the town of Babylon located in the state of New York, there appeared to be a rather impossible-to-explain mystery light. This light was observed moving at speeds far greater than that of any current aircraft during the time. Witness accounts claim that the light was first spotted at roughly 8:45 p.m., located far east of the town of Babylon. As additional witness reports poured in, many claim that after a period of time, the light began to move south and stayed at the same altitude as it passed overhead on a direct path. Along its path, reports detailed that the light would fade out of existence only for it to fade back and further along its path, as if it were jumping between distances within the blink of an eye. After a short period, the light faded and completely vanished from sight. Shortly after, as people gathered together to talk about the sighting, a mass panic began to erupt as many believed that the sighting was evidence of a war soon to begin, as during this time, the world was on the brink of war. Officials soon came in and claimed that the sighting was nothing more than a natural phenomenon and that it was nothing to be alarmed over. Though many accepted this half-hearted explanation, others claimed that the light was not like that of any natural phenomenon they had ever seen and claimed it to have been some sort of experimental aircraft impossible to explain. Antarctic humanoid creatures. Antarctica has always been at the center of a wide number of different mysteries, and it appears that Japan is no stranger to these theories and has been at the center of rumors surrounding the icy continent. It appears that over the past few years, stories of strange humanoid creatures living in Antarctica have slowly been circulating all around Japan. According to the Japanese whaling industry, many crew members aboard so-called whale research ships have reported seeing strange humanoid creatures on the continent. Reports detail that when approaching near the continent of Antarctica, Japanese crew members will report seeing what appears to be large giants laying out in the ocean. They appear to be humanoid in shape. These creatures are described as being 20 to 30 meters in length and completely white in skin tone. Others have often reported that the creature was originally mistaken as being a larger submarine in the distance before getting closer and seeing hands, fingers, eyes, and a mouth. This led to the name of the Ninjin by the Japanese crew, whereas others simply refer to these creatures as the Antarctic humans. To this day, not a single image of the creature has surfaced, and it continues to be a mystery of the Japanese crews that experiences these occurrences on a nearly daily basis. Number 10. Encounters with the Mapinguari. One of the most interesting accounts of a strange discovery made within the dense Amazon jungle is that of modern-day encounters with a large ground sloth. Though many locals refer to the creature as the Mapinguari, an ancient Brazilian monster of native folklore and legends. It's described as having the skin of a reptile, one large eye, a second mouth on its stomach, long claws, and backward feet. Many modern-day sightings, however, have instead described the creature as a massive sloth-like creature that moves slowly, has long arms capable of tearing apart trees, a sloped back, and can stand up to 7 feet tall while being covered from head to toe in thick and borderline impenetrable matted fur. Interestingly enough, what many people are not aware of is the fact that when Charles Darwin first visited areas throughout South America, he came across the bones of a now extinct megafauna known as the giant ground sloth, a large cousin of the modern-day sloths throughout South America, estimated to have stood at the size of a bear. When he first discovered the bones, Darwin remarked at how young they looked, believing the bones to have been freshly made by an animal that had just recently died. Further studies would confirm that the giant ground sloth would be around as recently as 10,000 years ago before the Great Ice Age had formed and could have survived for a short period after. This has left many believing that perhaps the modern-day accounts of the Mapinguari are merely encounters with surviving members of the giant ground sloth believed to be extinct. Number 9. The Street of Black Rock. If the supernatural theory of ley lines is to be believed, this means that there are thousands of locations all around the Earth that work as focused points of unexplainable energy that the ancients were aware of and built unexplainable shrines to manipulate and use these energies to their benefit. This means that, in the modern day, there might be some points still active that cause a number of strange and unexplainable phenomena, and the Street of Black Rock might very well be one of these locations. All around the world, theorists have claimed that they have found proof of such focused points of energy and point to strange ancient constructions such as Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids of Giza. But others believe that perhaps in Thessaloniki, there exists a working doorway to another dimension known as Black Rock Street. The Street of Mavris Petras, located in the area of Annapolis, contains a small narrow alley that many claim has been the source of a number of supernatural occurrences and disappearances. The urban legend stipulates that at random times of the year, the narrow alley will turn into a supernatural doorway into a mysterious world that you may never be able to return from. Though this legend is new, that hasn't prevented a number of enthusiasts from trying to better understand what could really be happening here and trying to find the gateway themselves. Number 8. The Superhuman Sherpas of Nepal. Located around the Himalayan mountains, the Sherpas are a tribe of people that originated from the native Nepalis and developed special adaptations for their living conditions on the tallest and coldest mountains in the world. The Sherpas are regarded by even the most experienced mountain climbers as the elite experts in the world of hiking and mountain climbing. And due to this, they are often hired as guides or climbing supporters for mountaineering expeditions in the Himalayan region. Interestingly enough, the Sherpas have developed unique advantages in the world of mountain climbing and high-altitude conditions. Not only do their ancient traditions allow them to learn advanced climbing techniques early on, but the Sherpas have special genetic adaptations to living at high altitudes that include richer oxygen levels in their blood and the ability to produce nitric oxide at double the normal rates of the average individual. Additionally, given their long durations of exposure to blistering weather and extremely cold conditions, the Sherpas have developed special brown fats that have a higher ability to generate natural heat in the body and prevent the cold from doing any lasting damaging effects to their body and to even prevent shivering in otherwise intolerable conditions. This has led many natives of Nepal to believe that the Sherpas possess superhuman traits in the world of mountain climbing that separate them from the average person, leading to their natural ability to survive in conditions no normal man ever could. Number 7. The Kongamato. Seeing as modern-day pterodactyl sightings of the Kongamato all throughout Africa, as well as reported strange encounters with the creature, have left many believing with overwhelming certainty in the possibility of the creature's existence well into the modern day. The name Kongamado actually roughly translates to the breaker of boats, as many natives claim to have been attacked by these flying creatures when they ventured too close to nearby rivers and deeper waters. Some claims range from its wingspan being 4 feet to 100 feet wide, and natives have described the creature to be of perfect description to that of the pterodactyl of ancient times despite lacking the education of dinosaurs in their appearance. Although many of the sightings of these creatures are limited to the Congo, there are several reported cases that stretch as far as Papua New Guinea and all across Africa. Additionally, when European travelers were visiting these regions in the hopes of colonization or trade, they wrote extensively about encountering winged creatures, which often attacked their crew and carried away any fresh corpses on their travels. Given the wide expanse of the jungles of the Congo being widely unexplored, as well as housing a large number of different bird species as well as larger flying species, it could very well be the case that the Kongamado is a direct descendant of a surviving species of pterodactyl and could have survived in the rich, fertile areas of the Congo. Number 6. The Bat Squatch. Shortly after the eruption of Mount St. Helens, a team of researchers surveyed the area to better understand the explosive devastation caused by the eruption. Researchers found that more than 550 million tons of ash and debris had been ejected from the mountainside, leading to massive gaping slopes and areas of complete removal from the force of the powerful explosion. Interestingly enough, in the following years thereafter, many began to report seeing a large demonic flying creature in the region. The locals would call this creature the Bat Squatch, and it was described as standing more than 9 feet tall. One of its alleged powers was being able to shut off car engines. Additionally, descriptions of the creature detail that it had bat-like leathery wings and its feet were more bird-like in design. If that didn't add enough confusion as to the potential species of the creature, its face was described as being wolf-like. Not only that, but it also had a wingspan of 50 feet in length. Those sightings of the creature can be traced as far back as the year following the Mount St. Helens eruption. Over the past few years, this creature has been witnessed on numerous occasions. The reports follow a similar theme, witnesses spotting a large creature flying through the air and possessing large bat-like wings. As you can imagine, trying to figure out what this creature is has been tough. Skeptics suggest that what people are actually seeing is a misidentified creature. But as many have pointed out, there's no animal in the natural world that looks like the Bat Squatch. Others have suggested that what people were seeing was the elusive Mothman. To this day, though, the Bat Squatch remains a mystery. Number 5. A discovered 1,800,000,000-year-old nuclear reactor. Back in 1972, when a large amount of uranium ore was mined from the Oklo mine located in the country of Gabon, a small nation in Central Africa, scientists began to test the uranium deposits to catalog the amount of recovered uranium-235 that was gathered from the site and could be used for ongoing efforts of nuclear fission and nuclear reactors. Unfortunately, they quickly realized that a substantial amount of uranium-235 was missing from the ore deposits, as uranium-235 forms a solid concentration of 0.72%. But a significant amount was lacking from the mined minerals. As they investigated the situation, believing that perhaps more than 200 kilograms had been stolen, they quickly realized that located near the mine location was the perfect conditions to form what is believed to be a naturally forming nuclear reactor that is dated to be roughly 1,800,000,000 years old. Scientists claim that the uranium ore was used when a naturally formed cavern using groundwater to help stabilize the nuclear reaction was discovered underground. Conspiracy theorists, however, have an alternative explanation. Given the fact that the specifications required to form a naturally made nuclear reactor require specific storage of the uranium-235, the continued influx of water, and a number of steps to prevent the compounds from becoming superheated, it is believed that the location is not naturally formed and rather the use of a primitive nuclear reactor by time-traveling humans needed to create a substantial amount of energy. Today, the claim is widely debated as one of the key pieces of evidence of time-traveling humans and their influence on the past. Number 4. The Dorchester Pot, a mysterious out-of-place artifact. Back in June 1851, a A report in Scientific American appeared in the Boston Transcript about a metallic vase previously discovered by miners. Originally, the vase was found in two parts among the rubble that was dynamited out of solid sedimentary rock located in Dorchester. What makes this discovery particularly strange is that the vase was found about 4.5 meters below the surface and was embedded deep inside the rock. This indicates that it was likely there for an extremely long time. The bell-shaped vase consists of a silver and zinc alloy, and the sides are filled with flower and bouquet arrangements. Over the last 30 years, the vase has been examined by many experts, including the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, which operates a state-of-the-art analysis laboratory built together with MIT. The vase was run through various tests over 2 years, and no one was able to confirm its origin. Surprisingly, geologists managed to date the rock, and it's believed to be at least 1 million years old. Acid testing done on the vase confirmed these credible time parameters. So, some of the questions that were asked are, how did this vase stay so well preserved after all these years? How did it get deep in the sedimentary rock? And why was it there in the first place? As of today, these questions cannot be answered, and over the years, many theories have been put forward by researchers. However, most of these can't be proven. Number 3. The oldest galaxy cluster, 13 billion years old. After thorough research and decades of scientific evidence, physicists have come to the conclusion that our universe is about 13,800 million years old, and it's still expanding. In this unimaginably vast universe, the largest structures that we have discovered are the galaxy clusters. Each galaxy cluster is made up of thousands of galaxies, and these galaxy clusters are connected to each other, forming most of the universe that we have observed. Recently, in September 2019, researchers working at the Imperial College of London and the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan made a groundbreaking discovery. They found the oldest known galaxy cluster in the universe, located 13 billion light-years away from us, making it 13 billion years old. Yuichihiro Kane, who is leading this research, has said that this galaxy cluster is located far away from the other galaxy clusters, and this in itself is quite remarkable. Scientists have also found that the size of the stars in the newly discovered galaxy cluster is about 5 times bigger than the largest stars found in other galaxy clusters. This is astounding, especially when considering that our Sun, which is a star, is about 1 million times bigger than Earth. The largest stars in our galaxy are thousands of times bigger than our Sun. Just imagine the secrets that this newly discovered cluster of galaxies holds, with stars bigger than anything we have ever seen. Number 2. The disappearance of Bemaya Island. One of the most popular urban legends arising from Mexico is that of the disappearance of a nearby island, which many blame on the United States government. Made popular by the BBC's World Service documentary Mexico's Missing Island, Bemaya Island is a phantom islet that, according to maps as recent as the middle of the 19th century, should currently be lying off the north coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. However, a survey done in 1997 was unable to locate the island and seemingly found that it had vanished from existence. Conspiracy theorists would later be the ones to find definitive proof of the existence of the island that spanned reference cartographer maps among 400 years of documents, despite many officials denying the existence of the island and blaming erroneous reports. Today, locals believe that the United States government purposefully destroyed the island using nuclear technologies, similar to those seen at Bikini Atoll, to not only reduce the land claim of Mexican territories, but also allow international passage for their naval ships and submarines without breaking the treaties outlined in the United Nations Charter of the Sea. On March 20, 2009, the National Autonomous University of Mexico, instructed by the Mexican government, conducted investigations throughout the region where the island was said to rest, in an attempt to naturally explain the island's disappearance. The team used an oceanographic vessel known as Justo Sierra, which was equipped with state-of-the-art devices to help uncover any low-lying lands or completely demolished areas. Though it was originally believed that the United States had used nuclear weapons to destroy the island, at the end of June of that year, the investigation was ended with overwhelming evidence that not only was there no evidence of such a conspiracy, but there had been no vestiges of an island ever having existed in the area, sunken or otherwise. Today, there appears to be no real answer as to the cause of the disappearance of this island, and locals still regard it as one of the most popular Mexican mysteries in urban legends. Number 1. Why are whale calls getting deeper? Some of the most incredible animals in our oceans are the whales, which can grow up to 30 meters in length. The blue whale is the largest animal to have lived on our planet. When it comes to their diet, blue whales are known to primarily consume krill, but these giants will also consume other small crustaceans. In order to maintain their diet in bulk, these whales are mostly found in areas rich with high concentrations of krill. One such place is the Arctic Ocean. Researchers have noted a change in the calls of whales over several decades. The audio recordings indicate that the whale calls have been getting deeper. This phenomenon has been observed in different species of whales. Some have suggested that this change is due to maturation in age, with the cries of the whale developing as they do. However, this theory was dismissed when inconsistencies were discovered. Researchers began investigating the environmental factors that might be contributing to the change in whale calls. Some argued that the whales were adapting to the noise pollution in their surroundings. With increased marine traffic in the oceans, it is believed that the whales may be changing their vocalizations to be heard more clearly. Increased noise pollution could be disrupting the whales, leading to changes in their vocalizations. Whale beaching has also increased in recent years, and some link it to these disruptions. As of now, scientists are still working to identify the precise reasons behind the deeper whale calls and the potential impact of environmental changes, such as increased noise pollution. These ongoing studies are critical for understanding how human activities affect marine life and the communication patterns of these magnificent creatures. The mysteries of the deep continue to unfold, and the fascinating world of whales remains an area of scientific inquiry and conservation efforts. Number 10. The Seven-Headed Dragon. According to accounts of old Italian folklore, there appear to be numerous strange reports that tell of a creature with the ability to live forever, untouched by age, and proving to be a menace to the province of Bergamo. This creature is known only as the Seven-Headed Dragon and seems to bear a startling resemblance to the creature known as the Hydra. Interestingly enough, according to legend, the dragon was known to wander the countryside in search of livestock to devour, completely ravaging towns and draining a well of its entire supply of water during one sitting. This led to a number of farmers and hunters gathering together to fight the beast, only to fail miserably, leading to a number of the population perishing in the fight. Due to this immediate danger, a collection of small states of Italy, fearing that the creature might eventually find its way to their own provinces, gathered together a small army composed of the reported best soldiers in all of Italy. These soldiers tracked down and hunted the creature, battling it for days. Eventually, they pushed the monster back into a nearby wellspring. Upon entering the water, the creature thrashed and fought, unable to take any damage of any kind, leading to the creature accidentally burying itself underneath the mud of the wellspring as its movements caused it to slowly sink in. Tales of this story are still told in the modern day and have led to a number of Italians believing that the muddy water in the area in which the dragon was trapped is that of the Font Drago, the name of a wellspring that translates to the wellspring of the dragon. A particularly muddy wellspring that has caused many to sink in and drown in a form of muddy quicksand. To this day, many believe that this immortal dragon rests underneath these waters, waiting for the day of its return, as its own immortality allows it to endure its entrapment for endless millennia. Number 9. The Mini Road. On the 2nd of September in 1968, a group of friends was diving 18 feet underwater off the northwest coast of North Bimini Island. Amateur divers discovered an incredible underwater megalith structure. It had rounded stones of varying size and thickness, which are believed to be evidence of a wall or pavement. Further examination of the area found that the stones formed a nearly perfect linear formation, proving its artificial nature and strange discovery. In 1978, a radiocarbon laboratory at the University of Miami dated samples retrieved from a Bimini Road core and believed the area to be somewhere around 2,700 to 3,500 years old. Number 8. Transient lunar phenomena. Throughout human history, many have claimed not only to have observed the surface of the moon changing or undergoing what seems to be massive earthquakes and tectonic activity, but also to have seen bright lights and colors moving around the lunar surface or growing in size. These are not just claims made by amateur astronomers. In fact, The majority of transient lunar phenomena come from reports made by multiple witnesses and reputable scientists. The reports detail strange occurrences on the surface of the moon, including the sudden appearance of foggy patches, permanent changes to the lunar landscape, the release of gases causing mists and obscurations, reddish colorations, green, blue, or violet colorations, areas of the moon becoming brighter than normal, and areas of the moon becoming much darker than normal. These strange lunar phenomena led to a full survey and report created by Barbara Middlehist, Patrick Moore, and Winifred S. Cameron. They discovered that these reports went as far back as the 10th century, being detailed in accurate descriptions by monks and researchers from cultures around the world. Though NASA has admitted via recent discoveries made on the moon that gaseous excretions and asteroid impacts can occur and cause changes to the lunar surface, transient lunar phenomena are still widely regarded as controversial. Many astronomers and scientists refrain from reporting any sightings they make, fearing chastisement and ridicule from the scientific community. Number 7. The purpose of the pyramid. For the Aztec civilization, archaeologists have found that at the center of every major city and establishment by the ancient culture, there stood a large pyramid to act as a sort of heart of the city's design. This has led many researchers to believe that the pyramids held major religious and spiritual significance, and the city was built around them rather than the pyramid being built into an already pre-existing city. Additionally, given the significant importance that the ancient Aztec civilization placed on sacrificial rituals to their gods of war and the sun, many researchers believe that the temple could have been used as a place for these rituals to be performed. The Pyramid of the Sun is believed to be the site of a number of these rituals that were conducted by the Aztecs. This was to ensure the safety of humanity, as they believed that if the ritual was not completed, their gods of war and the sun would immediately seek out a bloodthirsty solution and block out the sun from the sky, casting the world into darkness and preventing life from continuing. To combat this, the Aztecs were believed to have performed rituals at this massive pyramid to appease their gods and guarantee a new year. Additionally, in ancient Aztec mythologies, it's believed and claimed that the pyramids acted as a sort of connection to their ancient gods. The Aztecs wrote many different accounts in their mythologies of their gods descending from the sky and landing on the pyramids. It is said they did this to engage in conversation with the ancient Aztec people and provide gifts. This has led many ancient civilization theorists to believe that the pyramids were ancient landing sites, given that the Aztec mythologies talk about giving gifts to their gods. However, there is still no true consensus as to the role of the pyramids and why they were usually constructed as the centerpiece of cities and construction. Though there is believed to be a connection with the structure and that of the ancient gods worshipped by the Aztec civilization, the pyramids in the region, the pyramids of the sun and moon, along with a smaller pyramid structure nearby, mark the exact coordinates of the 3 stars that make up Orion's belt on the Orion constellation. This helps demonstrate their connection with the celestial bodies in the sky, the stars, and their religious significance. Number 6. The Bear Lake Monster. Located on the border of the states of Utah and Idaho in the United States, there appear to be strange sightings of an underwater creature referred to by locals as the Bear Lake Monster. According to witness reports, this creature is described as a large serpent with legs more than 18 inches long that quickly runs across the shoreline. It would later surface that back in 1868, many locals in the region were interested in these strange sightings and conducted a full investigation led by church leaders in the area and other reputable sources of information. These investigators uncovered many accounts from people living on or near the lake regarding the existence of the creature. They also questioned some Native American populations in the region, who told of ancient stories and myths about the lake being inhabited by a serpent-like water devil. Other church leaders then took interest in the creature and became obsessed with attempting to capture the strange serpent in an effort to parade it around as a real-life demon or devil that could be used to show the power of God. A resident near the lake even proposed building a large baited hook attached to a rope more than 3 feet long at the end of a large buoy that could be used to help capture the creature. This rope could then be tied to a tree on the shore as a passive fishing hook, which would lead to the capture of this monster. Even today, sightings of the Bear Lake Monster continue, with some even reporting that a large underwater bear mouth had emerged from the water and destroyed their camp while taking one of their horses underwater for a snack. Number 5. Ghost sightings. Ever since the owners of the Skinwalk carriage saw property to a team of researchers who dedicate their time to the study of the ranch and its paranormal and supernatural occurrences, there have been numerous reports of hearing disembodied voices, seeing strange orbs of light floating across the property, and witnessing milky apparitions of spirits coming and going from the areas of the ranch. These reports have led researchers to believe that perhaps the ranch is in the middle of some strange paranormal gateway or opening that allows such impossible-to-explain events to occur naturally. Growing reports from the researchers detailing such paranormal occurrences have also helped feed into the strange theory that perhaps something far more sinister is occurring in the area. Though the ghostly sightings are few and far between, with many claiming that perhaps they're more closely related to that of the extraterrestrial phenomena experienced in the area, they still continue to be an area of study for the researchers at Skinwalker Ranch. Number 4. The Lizard Man of Scape Swamp. Back in 1988, a 17-year-old local resident known as Christopher Davis claimed to have encountered something otherworldly near Scape Swamp. He described it as a creature that was green, completely wet, 7 feet tall, had lizard-like skin, possessed 3 fingers on both hands, had wide, glowing red eyes, and was covered from head to toe in snake-like scales. This creature would later be referred to by locals as the Lizard Man of Scape Swamp, and further sightings of the creature would continue for years to come. Over the years, many people claimed to have spotted the creature and even occasionally had direct encounters with it. Some have seen this creature on the roads located nearby Scape Swamp, while others claim they had encountered the Lizard Man miles away from the swamp. This led to numerous sightings of the creature, with a local radio station even offering a $1 million reward to anyone who could capture the creature alive and bring it to the station. Though many believed it to be a publicity stunt, the seriousness of the creature's existence would later become the focus of the nearby military base. An airman known as Kenneth Orr, who worked at the nearby Shaw Air Force Base, filed a police report claiming that he had encountered the Lizard Man off of Highway 15. He believed he had wounded the creature but couldn't locate its body despite the police report and the discovery of scales and blood at the location. Kenneth Orr was arrested for attempting to file a false police report, leading many to believe that the military may be actively looking for this creature while also working to cover up its existence to prevent mass panic. Number 3. The Legend of the Cat Eye Fortress. There is an old legend that tells of an ancient race of giants who once inhabited the city of Cat Eye many eons ago before humans began to inhabit the region. They were rumored to have been ageless, able to live as long as they wished, but they could actively be killed by means of attack or tragedy. Their leader was an old giant who was around 1,000 years of age. In order to protect his kingdom, he ordered his giant kind to line up in a single file, extending from the number of mountains all the way to what is now known as the Hisar Hill. As they lined up, he would grab massive boulders from the mountain and pass them down the line, allowing the boulders to travel a great distance and end up at the hill to be used for the construction of massive stone walls placed together without mortar of any kind. Shortly after this project began, however, his young 300-year-old son became injured by a falling boulder. Number 2. The Tricks of the Imp in the Mirror. Today, there are tales of a tiny imp that plays illusionary tricks for the sole purpose of driving people to insanity within the Italian countryside. The majority of these illusionary tricks play on images of vanity, making people appear to be ugly and misshapen when glancing into mirrors and staring at themselves. It is believed that the urban legend involving the imp comes from an older Italian cocktail published back in the early 1900s that tells of the imp listening in on conversations of people describing their own fears and struggles. The imp then uses this information to manifest images of monsters and internal issues that affect the self-esteem of the person they're targeting in negative ways. Number 1. Ghost taxi rides. One of the strangest urban legends from Malaysia tells of stories told by taxi drivers while making their rounds through a number of popular cities in the country during the times of 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. According to witness accounts, many taxi drivers have claimed that they will no longer run taxis after 11:30 p.m. due to supernatural encounters. At roughly 12 a.m., taxi drivers have begun to see a strange manifestation of a woman at the side of the road with long black hair and white clothes. If they pull over to pick up the woman, she will point them down a series of streets and roads until they arrive at a cemetery and will pay the driver with Chinese currency used as offerings for the deceased. If a taxi driver refuses to pick up the woman, however, she will continue to manifest at the side of the road regardless of how far or how fast the drivers drive. If they continue to ignore her presence, it is told that a dangerous accident will befall the driver and lead to their untimely demise. Number 10. 4,500-year-old Egyptian ramp system. One of the greatest mysteries of archaeology has been that of the Great Pyramids of Giza and exactly how the ancient Egyptians created the megastructures during their reign. It appears that during a recent archaeological survey of the sites taken back in 2018, researchers have found an ancient ramp system at the ancient quarry site of Haknub located in the East Desert of Egypt. Tests and theories have shown that the contraption could have been used by the ancient Egyptians to transport massive alabaster stone up a steep ramp that would have allowed them to move stones the size used at the periods of Geyser for construction. Though nothing has been definitively proved relative to its use for construction, it does lead to a tremendous understanding of the efficiency of the ancient Egyptians and how they could have potentially moved the stones to construct the pyramids if necessary. Number 9. Sightings of the Thunderbird. Although the name might not indicate a single species, the Thunderbird is the appearance of a large single bird seen flying overhead in different parts of the world. These sightings of birds were given the name Thunderbird as they seem to share a lot of characteristics, more noticeably their size, to that of the ancient Native American traditions and mythologies surrounding a large flying creature referred to as the Thunderbird. This has left many people wondering, however, if the creature is a modern-day sighting of a pterosaur, as similarly discussed previously, or that it is a single species of the Thunderbird as seen and recorded in ancient Native American legends. Additionally, the Thunderbird is described as being the size of a man when standing upright with a wingspan over 16 feet in length. This has left many cryptozoologists working around the clock to calculate its possible flight patterns and capability of sustained flight given its size. It is due to this that it has been posited by cryptozoologists that the Thunderbird originally was referred to this by native traditions because the creature would follow the upwind drafts created during a large thunderstorm to sustain their weight, size, and movement, very similar to the way modern-day eagles ride up the side of mountain currents to gain height with little work acquired on their part. A normal-sized bird would be torn up to unsustainable heights during a thunderstorm and might even find themselves in unsustainable flight positions, causing men to be thrown to and fro. However, a bird the size of Thunderbird would be able to stabilize its flight due to its weight and size, even when affected by such forces. Oddly enough, the area of the Bridgewater Triangle, which encompasses roughly 200 square miles in the majority of southeast Massachusetts, located in the United States, had the majority of sightings surrounding the creature known as the Thunderbird. The same area that many Native American tribes have reported encountering the creature during their time. This has left many wondering if the Thunderbird is a native undiscovered species of bird that is less supernatural in nature and is merely endangered in their population. Number 8. The continent of Antarctica. As many within the conspiracy theory fringe groups are well aware of, the continent of Antarctica is often at the center of a number of strange claims and supernatural occurrences. Such claims range from that of the continent being a massive ice wall for flat Earth theorists being an area that houses both illegal military bases as outlined in the leaked United States military projects known as Project Iceworm, as well as potentially being an area in which secret alien bases have been established. Though no one is exactly sure why such claims surrounding the continent exist, many theorize that it could be due to the fact that the icy continent has proven to be harder to visit in the coming days due to a number of strange claims from governments around the world. In fact, the most common method to visit the area requires expensive cruise tickets just to get to nearby shores that will leave after a short period of time. Even researchers have found that journeying anywhere across the continent proves to be a life-threatening and nearly impossible journey to land, as the blowing winds, dry air, large deserts, and constant ice quakes make any form of safe passage an impossibility. Research bases constructed across the icy continent must also be able to stay mobile, as the buildup of ice would swallow buildings that are not capable of moving a few feet every few days. Despite many of the outlandish claims surrounding the continent, even qualified research scientists themselves are unable to conduct reliable research as they wish due to these conditions. The efforts of uncovering fossils, understanding the geology of the structure, blasting, and ice drilling have only become more problematic as rising issues of global warming have made areas more and more unstable. Number 7. Vikings' Sunstone Compass. It is no secret that the Scandinavians were seen as the greatest seafarers of their time, responsible for some of the most incredible navigation breakthroughs and land discoveries that many other nations refused to even attempt at the height of their power. The cause for their seafaring skills has often been a mystery, but several researchers now believe that with the use of crystals, the ancient Viking people were capable of navigating the ocean in snow-filled overcast days, even when the sun and sky were not visible to be used for navigation. Referred to as sunstones, the Vikings described using a number of small crystals to assist with navigation even when the sun was not visible in the sky. The way this was accomplished was by holding the crystal up to the sky and moving the crystal around until it would show the position of the sun. Historians had first believed that the stories explaining the use of the sunstone as navigation were merely allegorical and had no real bearing in navigation of any kind, as no surviving instances of these sunstones are around today. Interestingly enough, however, researchers have begun to realize that by using polarizing crystals, it is possible to find the location of the sun even when the sky is overcast and even when the sun is behind the horizon. This has led researchers to believe that perhaps the sunstones were these special crystalline structures, but that any evidence of how they would work is still being researched and understood in the modern day. Number 6. Jimmy Carter's strange UFO encounter. Similar to Ronald Reagan before Jimmy Carter even began his work in politics, it appears that he was visited by a strange extraterrestrial entity with several other individuals around to confirm the story. As the president had arrived one evening to give a speech at Alliance's club meeting, he stood outside with other participants in the event before someone shouted to look west. When everyone turned, according to Jimmy Carter himself, there appeared to be a strange object that was visible about 30 degrees above the horizon to the west of where the group was standing. According to the soon-to-be United States Governor of Georgia, the object was described as being bright white and about the same level of brightness as the moon. It supposedly then quickly began to approach the group, but then immediately stopped near a clearing of pine trees some distance away from the witnesses. The object then began to change color from white to blue, then to red, and then back to white, almost as if an ode to the colors of the American flag. Shortly after, the object began receding away into the distance before it slowly faded from view. Carter states clearly that he did not believe the object had any physical shape of any kind, rather more closely seen as a strange manifestation of light energy and nothing more. Shortly after this event, Jimmy Carter announced his plans to run for governor in Georgia, which would go on to further his political career and eventual plans to become the United States president. Number 5. The laptop of ancient Greece. One of the most interesting characters across that of ancient Greek culture is that of the written accounts of the influential Oracle of Delphi. The oracle was described as being a high priest position that often carried over to the next priest after the death of the previous oracle and the following selection of the new oracle. This priest was then believed to possess the ability to connect with ancient Greek gods and provide insights and information previously hidden to human beings through this communication established between the oracle and the gods. Additionally, many regarded the position of being able to see the future as that of a cursed one. And so it wasn't long before the priest began to select a woman to fill the position who was cursed to be selected as their highest priestess and often referred to as the Sibyl. In many different accounts, the Oracle of Delphi was not only capable of providing information and insight to anyone from the personal problems of a peasant to that of a mighty ruler, but was also able to give predictions of the future that would always come true, and hoped to secure the reign of ancient Greece as a lasting culture in history. Interestingly enough, it appears that conspiracy theorists have discovered overwhelming evidence that the Oracle of Delphi was not only selected by the gods for this communication, but was in fact given a laptop by future humans to assist with information and influence. Though the claim might sound outlandish, evidence can be found when studying a Greek sculpture made in the depiction of the Oracle of Delphi and the source of the priestess's power. Now located at the J. Paul Getty Museum located in Malibu, California, is a statue known as the Grave Naiscos of an enthroned woman with an attendant that displays the Oracle of Delphi looking into what appears to be a modern-day laptop device. Many skeptics have often argued it to be nothing more than a shadow chest. However, the laptop also appears to have markings on the side that seem consistent with modern-day ports used for peripheral devices, helping to add evidence that a future-seeing influencer of the past was aided by time-traveling humans. Number 4. The Lost Tomb of Antony and Cleopatra. Although this might not fit the motif of a discovered artifact, the lack of discovery surrounding this ancient historical site is more than enough to cast both mystery and uncertainty in the field of Egyptology and archaeology. One of the most sought-after discoveries in the field of archaeology is that of the discovery of the lost tomb of Antony and Cleopatra. According to ancient accounts, after the Roman leader, Augustus, defeated Antony and Cleopatra back in 30 BCE, he permitted them to be buried together in the city of Alexandria located in Egypt. Despite this report and detailed announcement, the Suetonius and Plutarch records that elaborated that Antony had been cremated and placed into a large jar. Egyptologists and archaeologists are more than confident that the body of both rulers will be found mummified in a traditional Egyptian manner. Back in 2008 and 2009, popular Egyptologist Zahi Hawass announced that with the discovery of the Temple of Osiris within the city of Alexandria in Egypt, that he will be able to find the hidden tomb of Cleopatra and Antony. Unfortunately, despite more than 27 tombs being uncovered and 10 different mummies located in the region, not one of the tombs was indicative of that of the long-lost tomb of Antony and Cleopatra. Recently, however, there has been evidence of additional sites below when using ground-penetrating radar back in 2011. Still, the tomb eludes researchers to this day that have long since believed that raiders and other private collectors have probably already found and looted the tombs long ago. Number 3. The Saqqara bird. It was very common in the old days of Egypt for children to possess intricately carved wooden toys, not too much different from toys found today. Interestingly enough, the discovery of the Saqqara artifact puts many ideas into question on whether or not the object was a toy or evidence of ancient aircraft during 2000 BCE. In an 1898 excavation at the Pataromet tomb, located in the town of Saqqara, Egypt, a strange bird-shaped artifact made out of sycamore wood and incredibly preserved was discovered. These artifacts depict a bird at the front of its design. However, the rest of the body seems similar in design to a modern-day charter plane rather than a bird. Located atop the bird appears to be one single large wing commonly seen in modern taildragger planes, whereas the back shows what appears to be a similar design to a rudder that lessens out at the back in a vertical position. Further evidence of the ancient Egyptian gods wielding advanced technologies is the fact that the bird face used for the Saqqara bird is that of a falcon, an image commonly used to depict many of the Egyptian gods and their power. Further evidence was established when aerodynamics expert Simon Sanderson tested an exact replica model of the carved bird in a modern wind tunnel. Even without a tailplane rudder or flaps, the model generated 4 times the glider's own weight and lift, proving indefinitely that even without the use of modern-day equipment, scaled up, the carved image could glide on its own. When Simon Sanderson added a stabilizing tailplane to the carved wooden figure and tested it in a flight simulator, it was able to fly quite well and control with ease that rivals in comparison to many aircraft built today. In his paper, Simon wrote that, "Modern technology has proved beyond all doubt that it could have flown," end quote. Despite the substantial evidence and research, many experts claim Simon Sanderson is forging results or even go as far as claiming that perhaps the wooden bird is nothing more than an elaborate hoax placed there during its discovery. Number 2. The Dragon Aurora Borealis. Though this might seem like a fantastical occurrence only meant for that of the myths and legends seen all throughout the ancient Scandinavian lands, reports of a dragon made from the Aurora Borealis surfaced back in early February of this year. It's left many in Iceland to suspect that something supernatural was behind the sighting. Scientists are having a hard time trying to explain why researchers experienced one of the largest Aurora Borealis images in the sky. This incredible sight also took the shape of a fire-breathing dragon that wrapped across the sky. The event was seen over many parts of Iceland, with researchers recording the event to better understand its causes. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration recently posited some data forward that claimed the new, never-before-seen solar activity bursts on the sun were responsible for the massive image of the dragon in the sky. The space agency claimed that auroras with distinct shapes and three-dimensional images can form when the sun's magnetic fields begin to twist together and create massive sunspots. These sunspots then create a large amount of charged particles that will then shoot out into deep space in a solar wind. And if such a force happens to hit against the Earth just right, it can create supermassive aurora borealis as the electromagnetic fields of the Earth battle the energy and radiation of the sun. Interestingly enough, the researchers found that there has been no evidence of these sunspots in the month of February. So, to have caused this tremendous image remains somewhat of a mystery. This meant that scientists all across the world did not seem to have any source of reason as to why the image appeared, and the naturally formed aurora borealis was so different from its normal formations. Additionally, researchers who took the photographs claimed that there were many different images rather than just that of the dragon, such as the image of a large phoenix-like bird and the detailed body of the dragon moving through the sky. Many have already theorized that perhaps our ancestors were well aware of these images many years ago, and that the myths of fire-breathing dragons and phoenixes made from nothing but fire originated from these awe-inspiring natural phenomena. The images are incredible to look at, and going back to a time when we didn't understand how they were created, it's easy to see how people would think they were real-life dragons and mythical creatures. Number 1. Ring circles in the Amazon. The discovery of a series of mysterious ring-like ditches in the Brazilian and Bolivian Amazon has puzzled archaeologists and historians. These large rings, some up to 16 feet deep and 16 feet wide, were created by ancient tribes. Some theories suggest they were used for defense, drainage, or religious purposes. However, conspiracy theorists have linked these formations to aliens, claiming that ancient tribes couldn't have dug such large circles without advanced technology. Recent research has shown that these ancient Amazonian tribes were more advanced than previously believed, with sophisticated tools and organized societies. The United States military base known as Area 51 is known across the world as a hotspot of alien conspiracy, as well as a possible research base housing extraterrestrial spacecraft and attempting to work on reverse engineering further alien technologies that have been recovered by the United States military. What many alien enthusiasts are not aware of, however, is that the United Kingdom has its very own version of Area 51. Rendlesham Manor has been shrouded in mystery since its use with United Kingdom military operations, mysteries that have only deepened as new evidence and theories come to light. Today, we will be exploring the vast complex conspiracy surrounding Rendlesham Manor, also known as the United Kingdom's Area 51. The history of Rendlesham Manor started from very humble beginnings, originally created as a bathstone mining station. The area that would later become Rendlesham Manor was worked and designed to mine bathstone from the region for use in massive building projects, utilizing the material's ability to be cut in any direction, a property that other layering stones do not have. This led to larger-scale projects and cheaper means of production, which worked to help build hospitals, different forms of housing, and other major construction projects across the United Kingdom. It was not until the start of World War II that Rendlesham Manor gained its use in military operations. The tunnels from the existing Bathstone mine were a prime location to store munitions and other materials after the relentless strategies by the Nazi regime that led to massive bombings of above-ground facilities. These tunnels and further large cabins that burrowed deep into the ground helped create a safe and stable natural bunker. Initially, it was used as a central ammunition depot at the start of the war, but soon the area found itself a major control center used by the Royal Air Force. This led to the creation of further operations within the underground facilities of Rendlesham Manor in 1940. These included the operations room, the filter room, and then finally the shadow factory. It is this collection of rooms that would later lead to the formation of an alien research base. After the end of World War II, the operations room was essentially used as a military command center, establishing covert protocols for the handling of sensitive information and issuing military commands to the Royal Air Force. It also was used to establish secret clandestine projects. The filter room acted as an intelligence filter, hence its name, serving to establish a complex sorting system that provided intelligence regarding enemy operations and sensitive information and documents. The secure filtering system ensured no leaks of information from this filter room. These two rooms, however, were dwarfed in comparison to the importance of the Shadow Factory. The factory was originally established under the belief that a secret underground facility with the ability to create aircraft was necessary in the event that the Nazi forces continued their bombing assaults and destroyed factory productions of aircraft. This led to the creation of a complete underground facility with the incredible ability to produce entire aircraft in an assembly line from nothing but raw materials deep underground. Though the factory was claimed to have never been in operation, this would soon change during the 1950s after what alien enthusiasts refer to as a definitive UFO incident. Rendlesham Manor was then seen as a hotspot of alien activity and a control center for further investigations. This incident occurred as Royal Air Force pilots returned from a bombing raid and encountered unidentified flying objects. The details around this incident are unknown, but released reports provide further information. It's claimed that Winston Churchill himself asked for the event to be covered up to prevent mass panic. This led to the formation of an investigation team from the Joint Intelligence Committee at Rendlesham Manor and within the operations room. Weekly reports would be filled regarding the presence of extraterrestrials and the military's involvement. Further leaked information began spreading that the underground Shadow Factory soon became used as a potential reverse engineering facility, as the Royal Air Force had supposedly recovered a crashed alien spaceship that was being studied and held in the underground facility. Interestingly, these rumors are further confirmed by the James Bond equivalent of the alien world, Nick Pope, who used to work for the British Ministry of Defence and was tasked by the government to study and gather further information and research relative to unidentified flying objects, the alien presence, and their potential threat to national security. Pope would later go on to be an advocate for the disclosure projects with the hopes of the UK government releasing further documents relative to their findings of extraterrestrial activity. But he would later go on to say that mysteriously, all of the files pertaining to the 1950s operations at Rendlesham Manor concerning alien activity were destroyed and unable to be recovered. Despite this unfortunate turn of events, further documents had been later released to the British National Archive, providing proof and evidence of the alien investigations and clandestine operations held at Rendlesham Manor. These clandestine operations included a wide array of alien reports, spanning over 5,000 documents, as well as famous events that had been covered up by the British government. The list of these events includes a near-collision report of a 737 airplane almost colliding with an unidentified flying object, with statements from the captain and first officer. An alien response team investigating and recovering a crashed UFO at the Barren Mountains in Wales. Full detailed investigative reports of the Western Hours incident that many locals claim to have heard a loud explosion over the Atlantic, confirming the incident to be of extraterrestrial origin. The 40 minutes of supposedly missing footage from the Blue Streak missile test launch that showed evidence of a craft landing and the presence of a spaceman as described in the report. Many other incredible discoveries seem too frightening to be true. Of course, these reports and their details led many conspiracy theorists and alien enthusiasts to begin referring to Rendlesham Manor as the UK's Area 51 and as a potential command center for black budget operations that would go above the clearance level of even the highest officials in the military, British government, and clandestine operations. As much as people might argue that this would be a stretch, the logistics and development that had already been established at Rendlesham Manor were more than prepared to undertake such a project and become a completely self-reliant facility and factory capable of its research, production, and testing. What many critics and skeptics of this idea do not realize is the extent of the size and ability of Rendlesham Manor's vast complex tunnel systems. The underground tunnels and facilities make up more than 2.2 million square feet. To get a sense of this scale, one should look towards one of the biggest warehouse production facilities in the world, Amazon's fulfillment center. 2.2 million square feet is more than twice the size of Amazon's fulfillment center, which works to be a massive warehouse that produces and houses the endless goods available on Amazon worldwide. Now imagine that level of production completely underground, self-sufficient, and twice as massive, with a budget of the British military, additional black budget spending, and an endless number of Royal Air Force engineers capable of doing the impossible. The potential is nearly limitless. Now, if we take into account the past 70 years and the massive amount of reports totaling over 5,000 documents and investigations, that would mean the facility had the ability to investigate and report roughly once every 5 days. On top of the additional clandestine operations that existed throughout this time and the usage of the manor for sensitive intelligence and military operations, these reports are also only made up of the surviving documents and shared intelligence with the National Archive that are still around from that era. According to various sources and those within the intelligence community, many other reports, investigations, and further informational documents have been destroyed to prevent any further leaked information. This could mean an additional tremendous amount of evidence regarding alien activity and alien disclosure that are lost forever. The scale of this performance had to have already been massive and well underway. It is also important to remember that information at Rendlesham Manor went through high levels of filtering processes, so forged documents would not have been created or stored at the facility. Many skeptics claim that the released documents supplied to the National Archive are merely bogus documents that work to spread misinformation amongst the general public. However, given the strict protocols that had already existed among the Joint Intelligence Committee and further witness accounts from ex-British Ministry of Defense Nick Pope, this seems to be the most improbable explanation for the release of these 1950s documents and archived information. What is even more interesting about this case is that even though Site 1 of the Rendlesham Manor base has been decommissioned and no longer within military use, the Site 3 buildings, along with the vast underground tunnel complex, are still used and hidden by the British government and Royal Air Force. These tunnels were stated as being repurposed with the ability to house British politicians and other high-clearance personnel during the event of a nuclear strike. They are completely self-reliant and independent, with vast established systems to live indefinitely underground. This could be further confirmation of the abilities of the Shadow Factory and its potential of vast production, self-reliance, and pre-existing infrastructure spanning nearly 7 decades of developments. The Voynich manuscript is one of the most elusive and famous pieces of literature in all of recorded history. It is written in an unknown language or code and features copious amounts of text, illustrations, and diagrams. The subject matter of the drawings ranges from various and identifiable plants, diagrams of constellations, zodiac symbols, and even nude women bathing in oddly shaped pools. The manuscript was brought to popular attention by Wilfred Voynich, a Polish Samojisza book dealer, who the manuscript was unofficially named after. He purchased 30 manuscripts from the Collegio Romano in 1912, who were selling parts of their library due to a lack of funds, and the Voynich manuscript just happened to be one of the 30 manuscripts he purchased. Voynich was perplexed by the strange yet fascinating book and spent the next several years in search of scholars, cryptographers, and code breakers who could potentially decipher the manuscript. During this time, Voynich himself focused his efforts on attempting to trace back the origins of the book. He believed that finding past owners of the manuscript would help to uncover its author or authors and possibly even decipher the book's identifiable language. The earliest owner the Voynich manuscript has been traced back to is from the late 16th to early 17th century in the court of Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, who was also the King of Hungary, Croatia, Bohemia, and a member of the Habsburg House. Rudolph's reputation varies depending on who you ask, but it is commonly accepted that he was very much devoted to the arts, both popular and occult. In addition to collecting art, he was known to collect rare weapons, botanical gardens, exotic animals, obscure literature, and even dwarfs. He was known to have giants in his army, let a lion roam freely about a section of his castle grounds, and had a deep fascination with cryptography and alchemy. At some point during his reign, speculated around 1586, Rudolph was believed to have purchased the Voynich manuscript from an unknown party for somewhere between 300 and 600 gold ducats. Upon Rudolph II's death, many of his belongings were passed down to various members of his court, including the Voynich manuscript. Exactly who the manuscript was given to at this point is still up for debate. It was either received by Rudolph's personal physician at the time, Jacobi's Tepank, or Rudolph's botanist, a man named Marcy C. Either would make sense due to the subject matter of both biology, medicine, and plant life within the manuscript. The former was the likely owner at this time, as Wilfred Voynich allegedly found Jacoby's name written in a corner on the first page of the book, although it did not resemble his handwriting. The book remained with one of these two parties for approximately 20 years. The next owner is unknown, but at some point in the mid-17th century, the manuscript came into the possession of Czech antique collector and alchemist George Baresch, the first confirmed owner of the Voynich manuscript. Baresch unsuccessfully spent many years attempting to decode the strange book. Eventually, Baresch learned about a Jesuit scholar who was extremely well studied in physical sciences, such as geology, biology, and medicine, as well as cultural studies and linguistics, such as Egyptology and Sinology. This scholar was Athanasius Kircher, one of the greatest polymaths to ever live. Baresch reached out to Kircher, sending him handwritten copies of the manuscript along with letters in 1637 and 1639, the latter of which was preserved. Kircher did not reply but was fascinated by the script. He reached out in an attempt to obtain the real copy of the manuscript, but Baresch did not oblige. Upon George Baresch's death, the manuscript was passed to a man named John Merrick Marcy, not to be confused with the aforementioned botanist Marcy C., a Bohemian doctor and scientist for the Holy Roman Emperor. Marcy spent some time with the manuscript but later concluded it would be better off in the hands of his longtime friend and colleague, Athanasius Kircher. At this point, the year was 1666, and Kircher studied at the Collegium Romanum in Italy. Marcy sent Kircher the manuscript along with the letter stored inside the manuscript, which was still inside the book when purchased by Wilfred Voynich nearly 300 years later. The letter from Marcy states that the manuscript was apparently authored by Roger Bacon, a 13th century philosopher and astronomer. His reputation was very highly regarded by those who studied alchemy at this time, so his authorship was not entirely irrational. The letter also reads that Marcy's friend, Bohemian lawyer and writer Raphael Nosovsky, who also served under Rudolph II, claimed that Rudolph purchased the manuscript for 600 gold ducats. This letter also mentions John D. and Edward Kelly and the speculated exchange of ducats, possibly indicating their involvement. However, this part remains speculative. Upon Rudolph II's death, the Voynich manuscript remained in the library of the Collegio Romano for the next 200 years. In 1870, the Papal States were annexed by Victor Emmanuel II of Italy. The government chose to take much of the church's property, including some of the Collegio Romano library. Before this happened, some of the literature was transferred to various faculty members at the time, including Kircher's collection, which held the manuscript. The book was acquired by Patrice Beck, the then head of the Jesuit order and rector of the Collegio Romano. His library was then moved to Frascati, where it was housed until 1912 when the 30 manuscripts were purchased by Wilfred Voynich. Upon Voynich's death, the manuscript was passed down through various family and friends of his, and in 1969, while in possession of Hans Peter Krauss, the book was donated to Yale University, where it is still housed today in the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library under call number MS-408. Although much of the Voynich manuscript's background has been at least partly uncovered, much of the book remains a mystery. In 2009, the manuscript's vellum, a type of paper, was dated back to the 15th century, sometime between 1404 and 1438, using radiocarbon dating. Scholars believe it could have possibly been written in northern Italy during the early Italian Renaissance, and the language could possibly have Turkish or Hebrew origins. The manuscript itself consists of approximately 240 pages, some of which fold out to show large illustrations, and many pages are missing because the text is unreadable. The manuscript has been split up into 6 sections based on the varying illustrations and assumed subject matter. 1. Herbal. 112 pages contains illustrations of plants and flora, accompanied by text. 2. Astronomical. 21 pages features diagrams related to astrology and astronomy. 3. Biology. 20 pages contains text and drawings, including images of women bathing in pools connected to plumbing systems. 4. Cosmological. 13 pages features more obscure circular diagrams. 5. Pharmaceutical. 34 pages contains isolated plant parts and drawings of apothecary jars. 6. Recipes. 22 pages full of pages of text, broken into step-by-step sections. One of the biggest mysteries behind the Voynich manuscript lies in its purpose, although it remains unknown. Some experts believe the book was meant to serve as a pharmacopoeia or a technical book covering subjects like medieval sciences, early modern medicines, and alchemy. Other theories focus on attempting to decode the text within its pages. It is believed that the text is either a code-based message that needs to be deciphered using some type of letter-based or number-based cipher, which has not yet been found. Others believe the texts are actually coded messages, wherein a stencil was used to cover up portions of the page to reveal characters from an actual known language, blocking out the noise text. The issue is that there could be a different stencil required for each page, which could have been made randomly on a whim by the author when the manuscript was written. Some researchers have found that much of the text is made up of commonly used shorthand often used by scholars during that time period. Upon recreating the text into a full language, the contents did not make much sense, likely ruling out this theory. There have been a number of people throughout time claiming to have decoded the manuscript. However, none have been 100% confirmed. Perhaps the Voynich was a medicine book written in a lost language by a lost civilization, or maybe its contents come from outside of our Earth. It is also a possibility that the book is complete nonsense used to get some quick cash. Until more history is uncovered or code-breaking technology advances, the Voynich manuscript will remain one of the most unexplainable literary mysteries the world has ever seen. On the evening of September 19, 1961, married couple Barney and Betty Hill were traveling home from vacation to Niagara Falls in Montreal, Canada. They had been driving for much of the day and were nearly to their home in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. While passing through just south of Lancaster around 10:30 p.m., Betty noticed a few small but bright, star-like spots of light in the night sky. They moved from below her perspective of the moon upwards to the left and then to the right across the face of the moon. At first, Betty assumed it was some sort of falling star, only this star moved in ways she had never seen before. She watched as the lights traveled in a sporadic and unpredictable movement while they also appeared to grow in size and luminosity. Eventually, Betty convinced Barney to pull over to get a better look at the anomaly, which he only agreed to because their dog, Delcy, needed to be walked. Using binoculars, Betty claimed to see that the source of the flashing lights was some kind of aircraft, one of which she was unfamiliar with. In the past, Betty had heard rumors of reported UFO sightings from her friends and family, so her mind immediately assumed this was what she was experiencing. When Barney got to look through the binoculars, at first, he deduced that this supposed UFO was a commercial airplane en route to Vermont. However, after some time observing its truly acrobatic-like movements, he considered it to be some sort of top-secret government testing. He did not want to believe the possibility of it being some sort of extraterrestrial UFO. This startled Barney enough to urge the family back into the car to continue driving on their route home, which was nearing a pass through the mountains. As they continued driving, the Hills recall the UFO remaining in their field of view, coming even closer than it was before. Barney almost felt like they had been targeted by the craft, and it was following them. As they neared a familiar picnicking area known as Indian Head, the UFO descended so close and so rapidly to the Hills' car that Barney abruptly stopped the car in the middle of the road. The craft now hovered in front of them, about 100 feet above the car, taking up the field of view of the windshield. They recall it being flat and wide in shape, and it appeared to be rotating. Barney stepped out to have a look, first retrieving his pistol from the trunk of the car and holstering it within his pocket. He stepped away from the vehicle and then recalls feeling compelled to peer through the binoculars up toward the craft. He then observed anywhere from 8 to 11 human-like figures that moved with robotic, almost German soldier-like efficiency. They appeared to stare back at him, and although far away, Barney was able to see they were wearing what appeared to be black uniforms. In the next moment, all but one of the figures moved away. The one remaining appeared to be at a desk or terminal of some sort, and Barney assumed they were the leader. Barney then received a message, either verbally or telepathically, that said, "Stay where you are and keep looking." Due to fear or an unknown force, Barney was seemingly unable to take the binoculars away from his eyes. In this moment, he was convinced that the beings aboard the craft were not human. The craft then continued to lower, about 60 feet above him and 300 feet away. Then, cloud-like structures then protruded from the craft and began to telescope towards him. At this point, Barney was in such a state of shock that he found the strength to tear the binoculars away from his eyes, in turn breaking the leather neck strap. Near a state of hysteria, he returned to the car, warning Betty that he thought they were about to be captured. The craft proceeded to move directly above their car, and Barney tore off down the road. Next, they heard what sounded like a rhythmic pattern of buzzes or beeps coming from the trunk of their car. The entire car began to vibrate, and a tingling, almost numbing sensation passed through their bodies. In the next few moments, their memories became spotty, and both experienced states of altered, unaware consciousness. Just as fast as they heard the few series of buzzing sounds, they heard another, and the two returned to their normal, coherent states of mind. They were still in the car and were surprised to find they were nearly 40 miles from where they last remembered. When they finally did return home, they noted that it was much later in the night than they had expected to return back. It was nearly 5 o'clock in the morning. After the initial sighting of the craft, they had apparently lost about 2 hours of time. After the event, although their memories were spotty, they did recall making a sharp, unplanned turn into the woods and then coming upon some sort of roadblock and observing a fiery, glowing ball of light in their path. After getting some rest, the Hills awoke in the early afternoon and immediately noticed some out-of-the-ordinary sensations and bodily impulses. Barney found the broken leather neck strap from the binoculars. However, he could not recall how they broke. Betty insisted that their luggage be placed at the side door rather than the front for fear of some sort of radiation from the event. Barney, who was known as a meticulous dresser, found his dress shoes from the ride home were scuffed, scratched, and basically ruined. Betty found the dress she was wearing from the night before to be torn and tattered at the zipper and hemline. There was also a strange pink, powder-like substance on the dress that blew away when hung on the clothesline. She also insisted on taking a long shower to wash away feelings of contamination, and Barney felt compelled to inspect his private parts in the bathroom, but found nothing unexpected. In addition to this odd behavior and discoveries, the couple also found that neither of the watches they wore from the incident worked any longer. The Hills tried to reconstruct their memories of the events from the night and early morning, but they had seemingly lost time. They remembered the initial encounter, but after the buzzing sensations, their memories were fragmented. Betty, against his request, informed her sister of the incident. One of her sister's neighbors was a scientist, and he suggested they try placing a compass near their car and belongings and record the results. Barney came to find small concentric circles on the trunk of the car, and the compass needle would whirl around rapidly when placed near them. Being an interracial couple in 1960s United States of America, Barney did not want to bring their experience into public attention. Although they were both highly respected, dignified, and intelligent people within their community, the state of racial tension within the U.S. simply did not favor interracial relationships at the time, and Barney was wise to keep unwanted tribulation out of their lives. He also feared they would be labeled as lunatics for even mentioning an encounter with possible extraterrestrial life. Approximately 10 days after the incident, Betty claimed to have been having several vivid dreams for 5 nights in a row. They occupied her mind constantly throughout the day, and to those 5 nights, they never returned. She proceeded to document the dreams for future reference. In one, she dreamt that Barney and herself were driving in their car at night and were stopped when they encountered a roadblock, and several men surrounded the car. In the next instant, 2 small men were leading her against her while through a path in the forest. She noticed Barney behind her and cried out to him, but he was in some sort of trance. She estimated the captors in her dream were just over 5 feet tall, wearing dark blue military-style uniforms. She noticed their human-like appearance but with gray skin, blue lips, and dark eyes. The Hills were led into a disc-shaped craft, like the one they remembered encountering, and they were taken into separate rooms, which she protested against. She was spoken to by their leader and an examiner, and they both spoke very broken English, which she could hardly understand. She was told their bodies would be tested to compare the differences between the Hills and them. She was placed into what reminded her of a dentist chair, and the examiner examined her head, including her hair, ears, mouth, teeth, then other parts of her body, like her hands, fingernails, legs, and feet. He then unexpectedly inserted a needle into her navel region. This caused Betty an intense amount of pain, and the leader responded by waving his hand over her forehead and the pain went away. After the examination, Betty began a conversation with the leader, and she was offered a book. The book was filled with symbols she had never seen before. The leader said she could keep the book, but then an argument broke out among the creatures, and she was unable to. Against Barney's wishes, Betty ended up reporting their incident to the Pease Air Force Base, and they were followed up with for a long-form interview. The report was eventually sent to the U.S. Air Force's UFO research team called Project Blue Book. During the interviews, the Hills talked about having some form of amnesia during a certain time period of the experience. This was the first case involving a UFO that was accompanied with missing time. The Hills were then referred to Dr. Benjamin Simon, a Boston psychiatrist well-versed in hypnotism. They agreed to undergo a series of hypnosis sessions. However, Simon insisted they be separate for their sessions in order to keep each of their stories separate. During Barney's sessions, he became nearly hysterical, describing his overwhelming feelings of fear and helplessness during the whole ordeal. He then recalled events nearly identical to Betty's dreams, as well as exams on his male reproductive organs. Betty's sessions were similar, with the added fact that during the abduction, she had asked the beings where they were from, and they showed her a three-dimensional star map. They asked if she knew where she was located on the map. She did not. They explained it would be too difficult to explain. Simon concluded that the pair had suffered some form of unknown trauma, but their stories were simply made up from Betty's dream. At any rate, the therapy calmed their anxieties from the event. Betty made a sketch of the star map, and at the time, it was not an existing star map. In 1969, astronomer Marjorie Fish was intrigued by the story and constructed a more detailed map from Betty's sketch. The results found that the star map Betty was supposedly shown closely resembled the double star system known as Zeta Reticuli, hence the other alias of this incident. Perhaps the Hills were abducted and studied by aliens from the Zeta Reticuli system, or perhaps they made the entire thing up as a publicity stunt. However, the latter is unlikely due to their position in society at the time. Either way, this incident had a massive impact on pop culture at the time and inspired many to come forward with claims of extraterrestrial encounters. The Hills were said to be dignified people and not the kind to make wild accusations, especially about something as controversial as aliens. The mystery remains unsolved and likely will remain unsolved unless more evidence comes to light. When the ancient Greek civilization first journeyed to Egypt and laid witness to its incredible methods of construction, megalithic structures, advanced cities and technologies, and incredible strides in mathematics and philosophy. Not only were they completely intrigued by this, but they quickly worked to try to classify what they saw and provided with the names we know today. When the ancient Greeks came across the large stone structure that depicted a lion with the face of a man, reminding the Greeks of the stories of the Sphinx recorded in the struggle of Oedipus, they quickly named the structure the Sphinx as an ode to their own culture. Seen in the Egyptian culture, however, outside of this original encounter, nothing else was known about the strange structure. In fact, new evidence and research today have found that it could very well be possible that the Sphinx structure itself is far older than supposed Egyptian writings and documents proclaim it to be. So today, we will be going over this evidence regarding the Sphinx and asking ourselves the question, does the Great Sphinx of Egypt predate the Egyptian civilization itself? One of the main reasons for why the Sphinx has been dated to its current age of being only 4,511 years old is not due to carbon dating or other reliable efforts made to accurately measure its date, but rather because of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics and documents that detail that the Sphinx was supposedly created during the reign of Egypt's 4th dynasty. Unfortunately, it was recently discovered that these documents could very well not be legitimate, and that the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty forged them for the sole purpose of taking credit for another past pharaoh's work. A common practice amongst pharaohs to rewrite history and take the honor of a past pharaoh's lifelong efforts. This was discovered not by taking a closer inspection of the Sphinx, but rather discoveries made in the tombs of long-deceased kings of Egypt. Originally a theory posited by the groundbreaking author Robert Temple, there appeared to be overwhelming evidence that the Sphinx we know today was actually an attempt made by a pharaoh of the 4th dynasty to do nothing more than to claim the works of those before him. Evidence for this can be found when analyzing the head-to-body ratio. In fact, the head on the Sphinx is so small that many had often believed upon first sight that it could have been grinded down from a much more massive structure. The second piece of evidence is provided by the hieroglyphics located at the Temple of Theptufa. They outline in great detail that the original god of ancient Giza was Anubis. In the accounts, and images of Anubis in his jackal form are drawn all throughout the site in the same pose as the body of the Sphinx, with no mention of a lion of any kind at the ancient city. Interestingly, this exact same pose was discovered in one of the only tombs of an Egyptian pharaoh ever discovered that had been completely undisturbed since his burial, the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Within King Tut's tomb is a shrine to Anubis that demonstrates an exact scale of the Sphinx statue, but with the head of a jackal to represent Anubis, showing overwhelming evidence that the original statue at the ancient city of Giza was supposed to be that of a jackal-headed Anubis and not that of a lion body with a human head. So where do we get the idea of a human head and a lion body? The truth is, the only reason why the statue is referred to as a sphinx is because of old Greek mythologies, such as those of Oedipus, that talk about a lion with the head of a man called a sphinx. But no such symbol exists in that of ancient Egypt. This means that the hieroglyphic texts that describe the Sphinx with a human head to represent the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty were nothing more than a forgery by the then pharaoh to take credit for a great statue of which he had not created or designed. In fact, a pre-dynastic pharaoh gives a great account about providing his royal dog a grand burial at the site of ancient Giza. In this text, his argument for why he had such a royal burial for what has been speculated to be his guard dog was due to his want and need to have the dog buried before the great god Anubis, not only definitively proving that the Sphinx was originally that of the god Anubis in the jackal form, but also that the structure itself was created during the pre-dynastic times, long before any pharaoh could claim ownership of its creation. This could very well mean that not only was the creation of the Sphinx older than that of the dynastic reigns of Egypt, but that perhaps the structure is older than the Egyptian civilizations themselves. Further evidence of this theory can be found when analyzing the recent archaeological finds of strange bones discovered all throughout ancient Egypt. It is well known amongst Egyptologists that the ancient Egyptians treasured animals of all kinds, believing them to be the representation of their gods. It is due to this obsession that strange structures and bones from animals all around the world, even from areas previously believed to not have been operating open trade routes, have surfaced all across ancient Egyptian cities. Described as Egyptian zoos, strange hieroglyphics and designs have come forward showing evidence that not only were the early Egyptians capable of owning strange beasts from around the world, but that they possibly possessed an extinct species of woolly mammoths, dubbed as the world's first zoo. A 6,000-year-old ancient Egyptian cemetery was uncovered, filled with the remains of wild animals from all around the world that should have been unable to collect from the reaches of early man for thousands of years to come. Skeletons of ostriches, crocodiles, leopards, and other exotic animals were found alongside pools of water, large fenced-in cages, and a potential animal hospital filled with removed molars, teeth, claws, and evidence of animal surgeries. Though the importance of animals regarding the Egyptian religion was widely known, the evidence of the global reach of the species available to them, including species long believed to be extinct, has been a mystery that even the most elite of archaeologists and Egyptologists have failed to explain. This is odd, though, mostly due to the fact that it is widely believed by historians and archaeologists all around the world that the oldest civilization to exist was merely 10,000 years old. However, evidence in the fossil record shows that the modern-day intelligent human has been around for more than 50,000 years. So why is it then that the oldest cities don't start appearing until the past 10,000? It might have to do with the evidence of the extinct animals recorded in Egypt. The woolly mammoth was one of many distinct megafauna that went extinct at around the same time in the fossil record, nearly 10,000 years ago. These extinct species included the mastodon, short-faced bear, the giant ground sloth, and many others. In fact, when Charles Darwin first visited the areas near the Galapagos Island when he originally discovered the ground sloth bones, they were so fresh that he believed them to still be a living species of megafauna, proving the recency of their extinction. So why was it then that around 10,000 years ago, all of these species went extinct? Partly due to three strange reasons: large fires, a massive flood, and a sudden ice age. The evidence for these three events is widely known by archaeologists and research scientists, found in the fossil record that showed that all around the Earth appeared to be massive fires that were followed by a rapid cooling event that only took about 4 decades, as well as certain events being hit by numerous tsunamis and large flooding. Many experts had originally speculated that perhaps a massive meteorite strike could have caused such a phenomenon, but no large craters supporting the theory had yet been discovered at the time of the original publications. However, this year a massive crater underneath an ice sheet in Greenland shows a tremendous impact point where a meteor could have hit, generating more than 700 megatons of force. So much force, in fact, that it would have been equivalent to 140 fully efficient nuclear strikes using the Tsar Bomber nuclear warhead. A nuke capable of not only breaking the stratosphere but generating enough dust and debris in the air to cause a full-on nuclear winter. Any human civilization at the time, regardless of how advanced, would have been completely wiped off the face of the Earth in such a massive meteor strike. All of this happening at not only around the same time as a massive extinction event, but also around the same time the oldest civilizations would have been constructed. Could this be evidence then that perhaps the pyramids and the Sphinx, as well as many other advancements made in megalithic structures and creations, could actually more accurately come from the efforts of human beings from before this catastrophic event? And the Egyptians were merely the surviving peoples to pick up where humanity left off? Given the incredible advancements we have made in the past 10,000 years, this could very well mean that the humans before the event could have been significantly more advanced than we are today. And the old stories of gods and kings could very well have just been the technological advancements before humanity had to reset due to such a catastrophic tragedy. What do you all think of the evidence gathered about the Sphinx and the fact that it could very well have predated the establishment of the Egyptian civilization itself? And don't forget to subscribe for more videos.